You're watching Forget Being Cool.
Let me tell you something, Dave. Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers, belongs more on my cup than it does on my TV.
It's time for the Button Discussion.
John, let's talk about this. Super Mario Brothers. Is that game even a little bit super anymore?
I mean, it's super important. It's super historical.
Mm-hmm.
It's super old. It's super frustrating sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, Dave.
Uh-huh.
It's still a good platformer. Like, they nailed platforming way better than like Mega Man, right? Which, granted, Mega Man's not really a platformer, but there are platforming elements in it that will just piss me off to no end.
Right. Mario set the standard. Like, no matter what we look like when we look back at it, like, it set what a 2D side-scrolling platformer is. We had, like the weird Atari thing with the vines. What was that thing where you jump? Pitfall? It's kind of a platformer, right? Like, but
okay, hold on a second, though. This leads to the question,
mm-hmm.
right? You're going and I haven't played Pitfall in God knows how long. I remember almost nothing about it. But if you're going vine to vine, is it really a platformer if you're not on platforms?
I don't know if that defines.
I mean, it's where the name comes from, right? You're jumping from one platform to the next platform.
Yes, but you're also playing Kingdom Hearts, and people say that those have platforming elements, and that's a load of joke nonsense.
There are some spots in it where you're having to jump from like one thing to the next, but I would never say it's really a platformer at all.
And it's awful. But I would define. I mean, yeah, I haven't played Pitfall in forever either, but the concept of a platformer stems from like Mario, and I wouldn't necessarily say like the boxes are platforms. It's just kind of what we've defined it as.
So what you're saying is like a platformer is basically anything you're jumping from one object to a next, going left to right or right to left.
Yes, but it kind of breaks down to like Metrovania games. Metrovania, Castlevania, Metroid games. Like, that's not, like, to me, those are platformers with guns. And
but hold on a second, because in Castlevania games, yes, you're jumping from one platform to another in certain occasions, but it's not all that often that's what's going to kill you. Like, it does happen. Like, there are times when you have to make a jump and these weird ghost head things are flying at you and they hit you midair and you drop straight down, right?
Okay.
Sure, that's a thing. But that's not the basis behind the game, and even less so in Metroid, right?
Yeah.
Like, Metroid, you're really just running along a thing, and the closest thing to platforming is when you have to get, like, a super jump to get up to a higher level, and you can't get there without it. Like, that's the closest thing, and that's, I mean, not platforming.
So I think we solved this. Why do you think that Mario in today's age still matters? Like, Super Mario Brothers has defined a series genre that has gone into being even new Super Mario Brothers with Peach-Chat and all this Bowsette stuff that will no longer be relevant when we put this out. But
well, okay, so two things.
Right? Always two things.
No, sometimes there's three things.
Oh.
So part of it is that the historical relevance of it and the nostalgia that goes along with that, and people are still wanting to play it for that reason. Like, there are people that still want to play the game for that reason. There's also people that want to play it because even though it doesn't handle as well as like the newer Mario games, the newer 2D platforming Mario games, even though I don't like some of the newer ones, like, the physics in them are better. The landing in them is better and stuff like that. Even though it's not to that same level, it's still well done where it's still playable. Like, there's some older games, it's like, oh man, like, you just can't play this game anymore. It's that rough. But with Mario, you can, and people are still speedrunning. I mean, they just broke, like you said, I don't know how long after we recorded this is coming out, but someone just broke the speedrunning record in Super Mario Brothers recently. And the crazy thing is, it's like, because he took advantage of every glitch exactly right. I didn't know there were glitches in the game. I mean, everything has glitches, but like, I don't know. But because of that, you mix the nostalgia with the fact that it just was so well done initially.
And that there's
that
secrets that we're still finding today, like glitches. Better ways to speedrun things. And I think something that Super Mario Brothers will always do is the art style will always stand out as this, like, this is what normies think of video games. Right?
Normies.
Like the people who don't know, they don't follow the latest Call of Duties or whatever it is. They know that gaming is a thing. They know what a question block means Mario. Like, it's become this iconic thing, and it's been from day one with Super Mario Brothers 30 years ago.
Yeah.
This belongs better on your cup, John. Is this a game that you still enjoy?
Is it a game that I still enjoy? So it's a game that I will still go back to from time to time. I will still play it. Normally I play it for a little while, then I'm just like, if this was only on my cup instead.
I mean, we get to play it online together. You get to see how terrible I was, although it's been a very long time since I've played.
Well, the best part of
that kind of game in general.
The best part about playing online with you now with like the Switch Online server is I could take the hand and put it over your character, and then you just couldn't see yourself, and that made me laugh real hard.
Which is somehow way more distracting for me than it is to do to you.
Yeah, whatever.
You're welcome, John.
But I will continuously go back and play this game. And actually, like, I think I'm more likely to go back and play this. Like, if I'm playing by myself and I just want to do some jumping and running, right? I will probably have a better chance of me going back and playing Super Mario Brothers than I will playing Super Mario Brothers 3. Even though Super Mario Brothers 3 is, a better game.
And definitively, like, the high point of the entire series for a lot of people?
I mean, between that and Super Mario World, yeah. People put it up there. And here's, I have so many copies of all these different games on like different platforms and different cartridges and all kinds of craziness, right? But I will go back if I'm playing by myself. I will go back and play Super Mario Brothers. If I'm playing online with someone, I'd probably rather play Super Mario Brothers 3. And part of that is the fact that you're kind of working together. Like, you play a level, and then once you beat that level, you're done, and the next person goes.
Right. They made it a little bit better for multiplayer.
Yes.
Then what it really is me dying immediately, and then going back to you for 2 levels, and then you dying, and it being like, all right, Dave's turn. Dave died again. All right, and he's playing where he was, so Dave didn't get any further.
Yeah, and then I clap for you with the little clapping hand thing.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. The game holds up. Like, it has its flaws. There are a lot of people. Yeah, you can't go backwards. I think one of the big problems is, like, kids. Like, Ryan will play some older games with me, but that's not one that he'll go back to because the physics are so much better in the newer ones.
Can't even really define it as physics. There are no physics. There are no physics engines.
Well, maybe not, but like
I know what you mean. But the idea of it is, New Super Mario Brothers has weight. Like, the characters have weight. You can fall, you can land, but then, like, basically no matter what you're doing, everything kind of moves the same in Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, but also, like, the stopping, the jumping is just like it's been fixed in a way, whereas it was great for the time then, and like I said, it still works well if you enjoy playing the older game, but you have to make a big adjustment from playing the new one to playing the old one. And if you originally played the old one, right? And it's easier to make that adjustment going back because you kind of have a little bit of memory of how it used to be. But for a kid, going back, it's not the aesthetics of the game that throw my son off, right? He's used to this one, and that one is more difficult.
Do you think this game suffers from, and you've talked about this a lot on Generational Gamers, it's come up, is the idea of, like, the artificial difficulty? Like, creating games to be more difficult
Um,
because they were older and they needed to last longer and they couldn't
I, d-
make 60-hour campaigns?
I don't know. I don't know if it does as much. Super Mario Brothers 2 in Japan,
The
right?
Lost
Which
Levels
came,
in the U.S.
yeah, so it came out on the All Star
pack.
cartridge on the Super Nintendo. Um, that game was artificially hardened, and so Super Mario Brothers, right? It's difficult, and as you go on, it gets more difficult. And the biggest thing about the original Super Mario Brothers game, and I'm sure even the ones currently, is that you have to kind of memorize what's happening in the level. And then hey, I'm coming up. There's going to be 3 Koopas. Here I'm coming up. There's going to be a stack of Goombas. Hey, it's coming up, and I got to have to make this jump where there's just one little peg to land on, right? Um, and so it got more and more difficult or whatever as the game progressed. But I don't think it was like artificially difficult. Whereas in the Lost Levels, the one that Japan was like, U.S. gamers just aren't smart enough, so we're just not going to send this to them. We're going to send them, was it Doki Doki Story or something like that?
Doki Doki Panic reskinned to be Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I need to find a copy of Doki Doki Panic. Like, I want an actual cartridge of the Japanese Doki Doki Panic very badly, and I want to play it too. But like that game had stuff in it that was definitely artificially hard. So I played it a little while back. I think you and I talked about it when I did. But you're going through. I was in one of the underground levels. I got up on top. I'm running, and there's a warp pipe, and I'm like, "Oh, cool, a warp pipe!" And I was on like World 2-4, World 2-3, something like that, or 3-2. I had been playing for a while. And I go down this warp pipe, and it takes me back to the beginning of the game.
Right.
And I'm like, asshole, right? Like, seriously? And that, I feel, is like an artificially difficult, right? Like, making the game harder to be harder, right? Instead of doing it for gameplay purposes. Like, this is like, okay, here's a dick move. Gotcha, bitch. Whereas I think in the actual original Super Mario Brothers, it was just like difficulty ramped up. And I think it actually ramped up smoothly.
As the game, it actually went on a good difficulty curve.
Yes.
Have you ever struggled playing it on like a modern console? Have you ever preferred it be played in its original state on the NES or part of the All-Star Pack? Or is there a preferred way that you would play Super Mario Brothers at this point?
I think the preferred way, well, so I don't know that I'm the norm on this because I love having retro carts. I have my old school classic HD2 that I can put the actual carts in. It plays off the actual carts itself and outputs in HD, HDMI and all that stuff. And so I have these abilities to do that easier. And I think if I was going to play it and I really wanted to sit down and really play it, that's what I would do. Like, I would bring the cart, I'd put it on that. I would still put it up to an HD TV because the contraption I have works well doing that. But I've nostalgia's sake, I like that idea. Now, the issue that really comes in is, like, let's say you're playing with the NES Mini or NES Classic Edition, I think it is, right? There's that little bit of lag on that system.
It's ever so slight.
But it's enough on a game like that it matters.
And see, that's my question, I guess, is like, it suffers when you play games like Punch-Out, like, significantly, where it is precision second timing, but for me playing Mario, I've never noticed this now. I'm terrible at this game, clearly, as people have realized watching Mario play. But
yep.
I think it's a game that requires that. But so if you could pick any way to play it, would you?
Like, if I only had one option?
No, you have endless options. You have it on your Mini NES Classic Edition. You have it on Switch Online. You have it on your NES cartridge and a CRT TV. You have a contraption to plug your NES into an HD TV. What do you pick?
I have it on the Super Nintendo.
That's what I would pick. I would pick the All-Star Pack on a Super Nintendo hooked up to a CRT.
I would probably. I honestly don't think there's any difference between playing it on the All-Star Pack or playing the original cartridge. Like it's the exact same game,
No,
and
but
you're still playing. You're still playing with a controller that has a good D-pad and an A and B button, right?
the difference, John, is when I get sick of it really quickly, I can move to Super Mario World.
True. But if you're playing the original one and you're hooked up to a CRT TV, when you get sick of it, you can flip over to Duck Hunt.
That is a very good point. And Duck Hunt is a very fun game.
And if you really were like hardcore and you got sick of both of those, you could flip over to Track and Field because there was the cartridge that had all three.
Good
And
points.
Track and Field with the pad, I would, if I had all that right now, I would play that almost every day. It'd be my exercise every day.
Every day. It'd be your Wii Fit.
I don't have a Wii Fit because I'm gonna step on that thing and it's gonna be like you're a fat lard and I'm gonna just break it over my knee.
Ow.
Is that what it said?
That's what I always heard it say.
Oh, that's sad.
So, John, if you were to give Super Mario Brothers a ranking here, if you were to give it a percentage on our scale of 0 to 100, you can't exceed 100, and you can't go below 0.
Okay.
Just I wanted to clarify.
Okay.
You can't give negative percentages; those don't exist.
Okay.
How would you rank Super Mario Brothers for you? And this is a you opinion.
Like, what would I give it? Like if I like a video game review score type thing? Because here's my issue with that. Well, one, I have no idea. Two, it's almost like with the older games, you almost need to give it more of a rank it on how well it holds up comparatively, or something like.
Well, that's why I want you to review it now. Like that's the kind of the idea of saying. Oh, like if I were to play this today, how would I feel about this today, considering everything else that currently exists?
Oh, I mean, I would end up giving it like so I'm doing a percent.
Yes.
So it's 100 like amazing. So we're doing like percent of amazing.
100 is a perfect game.
Okay, so the currency that we are playing with is percent of amazing.
Uh-huh.
I would give it maybe a 65% of amazing.
So it's a D+.
Well, no, because but see, the problem is it's like a D in a scale like this would be like a 40.
Okay.
Right? Because otherwise, once you drop below, like if we're doing this like on school scale, like once you drop below 60, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Like
you fail.
Like 60 below, everything is equal, and I don't think it should be that way. I think it should be a sliding scale.
Well, it's a sliding. Well, the problem is it's a sliding scale above 60. Like there's a difference between a C, an A, and a B. Those are three very different letter grades in a completely wrong order.
So what you're really saying is from 100% to 60%, where does it fall? That's if my scale is getting truncated in this way, then I would have to give it like an 85.
Okay.
So it's a solid B.
Okay.
Now.
So we're saying 65 for the actual opinion out of 100.
Yes.
Okay.
85 if it's a student in school.
Okay. John,
you
beat this game.
Years ago.
Tell me how you beat this game. I just want to hear this story.
I ran. I jumped. I jumped up. Ran. I landed on a guy. I jumped. I fell backwards. I probably fell in a hole. I ran. I jumped. I ran. I jumped. I jumped again. I ran. I threw a fireball. No, there's no fire. There's fireballs in the first one.
Knowledge tested.
So, I mean, the game came out in the U.S. in 85, I think, yes. Right?
85 or 83, somewhere in that range.
Well, no, I want to say it came out in like Japan in 83. The NES came out in the U.S. in 85. I actually don't think Mario came out with the NES initially. I could be wrong. I read some books recently. I don't think it came out right away, or either that, or it came out in the U.S. version, did not initially come out in Japan when the Famicom was released.
Which is the way I think it is, but
yeah, regardless. So it came out in 85. I probably didn't get one until 87, maybe. I don't remember exactly. I got it for Christmas one year from my grandparents. And we had that, and we had Legend of Zelda, and then we had some games we borrowed from my grandmother because my grandmother would play in the NES games, which was really funny. So I watched my stepdad beat it. Like I remember watching my stepdad play it and beat it. I remember I was also playing at the same time period, but it wasn't until after he beat it, and I remember getting super excited. I'm like, "Oh, you beat Mario!" And it took a while, but I think the first time I beat it, I'm sure I did the warping, right through the warp pipes. So I was probably maybe 8 years old when I beat it. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So that's bad. But I mean, 8-year-olds back then had to play hard freaking games.
That's what you played?
Yeah, that's what we had. I mean, we had Super Mario Brothers. We had Super Mario Brothers 3 when that came out. We had, like I said, Legend of Zelda, which was the second game I remember ever beating. We had Cobra Triangle. That was a great game.
We'll talk about all of these someday, John.
Yeah, so, but like all these are hard games. Like all these are, like, it's not like now where you sit down to play a game and you're like, I'm going to play through this game now, right? Like it's going to take me 10, 12 hours, but that's just because it's a long story. No, I'm going to play through these games. Like back then it was, I'm going to sit here and see how far I can get in it and see if I can get farther than the last time.
Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, our review of Super Mario Brothers. Of course, if you guys want to help us out, you guys hit that like button, mash the subscribe button, because that's a thing you do. And, John, thanks for telling me something.
Yeah, mash that subscribe button.
For more great discussions, hit that subscribe button or visit forgetbeingcool.com.